But it's interesting, you know, you look at BS&T in that era. Of course, the second record exploded. Did you? And I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, 1,000,001 now. Did you ever think that record would be as big as it did when you were recording that record?
Well, a lot of things happened very quickly that you know, kind of proved us right in what we did that album. You Made Me So Very Happy immediately going to #1 on the singles charts, getting tons of airplay, and us doing the Ed Sullivan Show.
Sure, that was the pinnacle.
Man, you know, back in those days, you did that show and you were in. You could work anywhere after that. And that all happened within about a month of that album coming out. So yeah, we had a pretty good idea that it was gonna make some noise, and it did.
And if you think about the timing, you know, when you think about it back then, so many different styles of music were in the Billboard or Cashbox 100. So you could have a hard rock record and a BS&T record and even a Chicago record, all and Frank, and of course Frank would be there. Today, I don't think that's, you know, a real possibility. Everything's so compartmentalized. So oh, this record will do well on this chart and this one will do well on the other. Back then it was just a lot freer, a lot more open,
more democratic.
New sounding stuff was coming out every day back then. It was like you know, the record charts were just moving so quickly. You know, every week there'd be 4, 5, 6 new singles on the charts. And you know, we had pretty good staying power with that second album. I think we were in the top 10 for nearly a year.
Yeah,
with the second album, and that was unusual, and you know, really made us feel like we'd come up with the right thing.
Well, it's interesting also because you still had the writer and the performer, because obviously you guys did Holland Goes Your Holland, you did Carole King, Tim Buckley tune, Laura Nyro, Steve Winwood, Billie Holiday, you guys, and Three Dog Night the same way. You know, so it's almost like your records and their records were almost like greatest hits records, because you had all the best songwriters, Paul Williams, Elton and Bernie and things like that. And that's, I think, something that's also lost, where you had interpretive artists, even though David wrote, I think, 1 or 2 of the hits there. You had, like, Joe Cocker was an interpretive artist, Linda Ronstadt, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you know. So a different era, just a whole different concept.
Right. Now we felt really good about some of those songwriters' careers that we helped catapult. I mean, gosh, I mean, James Taylor was really just kind of getting started back in those days, and we you know, did Fire and Rain, and all of a sudden, you know, he had the world in the palm of his hand. And did that for a lot of those songwriters back then, and we really felt good about that.
And did you have any decision making in the process of picking those songs? Because I would imagine if I'm a songwriter, I want my song on a BS&T record.
Oh yeah, we every week there'd be a box full of demos, you know, acetate demos show up at our office, so we had a lot to listen to. But yeah, it was a democratic process. You know, we didn't pick a song unless everyone in the band felt good about it, and then we'd decide who would do the horn charts. Freddie Lipsius did a lot, and Freddie and Al Cooper worked together, and Then Dick Halligan came along, and he was such a well-educated musician, and he could write for anything. You know, you want a symphony orchestra, no problem. You know, or a big band horn section. He knew how to handle all of it. So,
well, also, but if I recall, wasn't there a Maxwell House commercial with your version of the Gymnopedes?
I think you are right. Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I see Maxwell House, Wherein, and the Gymnopedes.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of times it was. You know, you just, boy, the music was showing up everywhere.
Yeah,
it really was amazing. You know, when you think about 1971, I always think of that as being such a watermark. I was working at the Record Hunter. I was like 16 at the time, right by Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
And in one box over the week, you had What's Going On, Tapestry, First Weather Report, the third Rod Stewart album with Maggie May, Mudslide Slim. You think about that all within the same time period. There was just everything up for grabs. It was a wonderful time in music.
Yeah, and it was all getting airplay.
Yeah.
That's I think that's one thing you wouldn't see anymore. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is no real airplay anymore. You got a bunch of bean counters looking at things, and
algorithms. We have algorithms. Now we spoke to Leo Lyons of 10 Years After, and he told us about this gig up in upstate New York called Woodstock, and he said, gosh, they were touring so much that really was just another gig on the schedule. Was that the case for BS&T when you were?
Absolutely. We of course played Sunday night, the closing show. So it by the time we got to the hotel, it was already dark, and they shut down the helicopter service when it got dark. So they had to drive us in. I think, the hotel was maybe 3 or 4 miles from the concert area, and it took us like an hour and a half to make that drive. And then, which was fine because we got there and everything was running like 2 or 3 hours behind schedule. Crosby, Stills and Nash were going to come on right after us, so they were there, and we all hung out in the tent backstage together and got stupid. And then it was time for us to go on. We went on, did our set, came off, back in the car and back to the hotel. So I didn't get to see a lot of got to see a bit of Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Their first show, I believe, right? I think it was, yeah.
Yes, it was their first show, absolutely. And they already had Neil Young coming on with them. But that's about all I saw of any part of the actual concert. And by that time, all the weather problems that had come down on them over the weekend had driven away a lot of the folks who were there. I think my estimation, of course it's hard because it was in the dark, but my estimation is that the crowd was down to somewhere around 50,000 by the time we got on. The diehards who they were going to see Jimi Hendrix, and they didn't care what it took. Of course, when Jimmy finally did get on, the sun was coming up, and so I wish we would have had the opportunity, to be able to go out and mingle with the crowd a bit, and B, to hear, some more of the music that went on. But so for us, it just pretty much turned out to be another gig.
Any idea at that point that that would be sort of a touchstone in pop culture at that
Oh
point?
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You think
Yeah.
so?
That was, yeah, it was pretty obvious. Just the fact that it had drawn so many people
Right.
see it. It's you couldn't help but think, boy, there's something going on here.